But why we bring that up, because it's an important part of this question, is the idea that the financial relationship is part of the businessy stuff of being in partnership. And yeah, you're 40 and you support yourself, and we would imagine that it would be really great if you had the contribution of a man. It's a reasonable thing to want. You know, someone chipping in so that there's more money for play and more money for things, that other things you want to do. So we get what we're feeling out of you, from you, is this sense that I can support myself and I don't want to have to, or I can support myself and I don't want to admit that I don't want to have to. Right? Nowadays, you women, especially you 40-somethings, we've got one right here so we know all about it, and there's another one over there. Right? Got these 40-something women that are single, that are looking out in the world and going, yeah, I work really hard. Or I have to put effort and time into earning money, and I wish I didn't have to put that much effort and time into earning money. Or, damn, it would be just nice to have someone chipping in a little here. And that means on the dishes and the laundry and money. And then, because you're these wonderfully amazing light worker women who've been taught that you create your reality, and have been taught that, you know, your internal world is externalized, and you take responsibility 24/7 for everything that's going on in your life, you think, I can't just want someone to help me, right? I can't just want someone to do it for me. I can't just want that, because then I'm not creating my reality, or I'm not, you know, and you rub up against in your brains. And what's really interesting is you're doing this shit in your brain, which at least you're thinking about your tools and you're thinking about what we've taught. But where is the rest of you? Your brain is quite well engaged and will spin you like a top. But what about the rest of you? Where's the be kind to yourself? What's wrong with the idea that you have a man that comes into your life that has affluence? There's nothing wrong with that idea. It doesn't make you less of a light worker. It doesn't take away how well you create or don't create. It doesn't take away whether you manifest or don't manifest. It brings into your life someone who has had a journey that's resulted in this, that, and the other thing. You know, he's going to bring the fact that he snores and then he leaves his socks on the floor so you can vacuum him up, probably too, right? He's going to bring other stuff that you may or may not like as much, so it's okay to have him bring things you like. You know, he brings the fact that he's 6 foot tall or 4 foot tall, whichever it is you like, and he brings the fact that he likes dogs or he likes cats or whatever it is that you like. And it's okay if he brings the fact that he has money, or that he at least has a job, or that he has some kind of income, or that he has some kind of balance in his financial life. Let's just call it that, right? We're not like telling him he has to earn a certain amount of money or he can't come around. But we know what you mean. You know, the idea of having someone who's figured it out a little bit. You're going to bring into the relationship a lot of the things you've figured out, and you're going to put those two things together and make it into something that a third group thing that's going to be a balance of all the things you figured out, and it's going to have boing, 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 all the red flags of the stuff that neither one of you has, and hopefully you'll work together to figure out. So the way we're telling you this story, it almost feels like we're sitting by the fire telling campground tales or something. It's like we feel like we've spun a yarn for you here. But the reason we're telling it to you like this is because we want you to hear it in a gentle way, like a story, like a bedtime story, right? And we want you to hear it in a gentle way. You're not diminishing your spirituality or diminishing your light workerhood or denying you create your reality or any of those things that underneath it you fear you're doing when you say, damn, it would just be nice to have a guy around that, you know, had some affluence, some measure of affluence. You know, a guy, I don't pay his bills. How about start there, right? How about he pays his own bills and we'll go from there, right? Yeah, good place to start.
That's a minimum.
Yeah, at a minimum, you don't pay his bills, and then we build from that. The idea being that you're not diminished by needing. And this is something that we think needs to be said again. You're not diminished by needing, and you're not diminished by wanting. Those are preferences. That's free will. You come into this incarnation to state preferences. That's the point of being in a free will zone. And you state preferences by what you want for dinner, and you state preferences by what color you want to dye your hair, and you state preferences by saying, I want a man who has the ability to bring home some bacon. And it is not any sort of weakness to have that preference. Now, where you get screwed up is if you go into judgment. If you go into judgment about a man who doesn't have money, or you go into judgment about yourself for wanting to have a man that has, a few toys around. If you have judgment mixed in, that's when it gets a little dicey, because then what you're doing is you're really screwing with your head again. So if the truth of you, heart chakra, emanated, remember, heart chakra is only out, not in and out. If heart chakra energy emanated into the world is, I'm really ready to do the kindness to myself to attract a partner who has his financial house in order. That's just being kind to yourself. And it's similar to saying, I want a man who's energetically aware, who's spiritually aware, who, is healthy. The other things that it's easier for you to desire. And you brought them up in your question. The two things that are hard for lightworker women to want in a man is affluence and spirituality or spiritual awareness. Because those are the two things that you don't seem to find very often if you're not really being kind to yourself when you're creations. It's much easier to attract a man who has no consciousness and who wants you to pay his bills because it's a lower vibrational state. So if you allow yourself to access the idea of a higher vibrational connection, then you give yourself permission to be loving to yourself. And then you become more attractive anyway because you're in a higher vibrational state and because you take care of yourself. It's simple when you say it, but we know how hard it is to feel it. We know how hard it is to feel it. And it comes back again, we're still feeling it in you a little bit. It comes back again to that point where you guys will go, I've been taught I am responsible for my whole life. Therefore, I don't know how to be in a relationship where I let any of my responsibility be someone else's responsibility. And it's not you don't stop being responsible for your reactions to your creations or your creations in general. And what you're doing is saying, I'm making responsible choices about my desire system. I'm making responsible choices about my preferences. I'm making responsible choices using my free will. And my desires and my preferences and my free will say, 6 foot tall, got a job, likes dogs, or whatever it is. Got it? Make sense? You can feel into that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, how about you, Carla? That felt good to hear. Sounds like a good answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just remember, and we're going to say it again, we know we've said it 3 times already, but we can feel it in the energy today, is you are not giving up your light worker banner if you say, I want a man in my life. In fact, you're becoming even more intensely on your light worker journey because you bring a man into your life or a woman, whichever you prefer. The next thing happens is triggers, baggage, static, habits, the temptation to be in the past, the temptation to speculate about the future, right? You have to stay on your game. So it's not like you're saying, I'm giving up on the fact that I create my reality and I'm just going to go and be in a relationship. That's funny. No, that's not what you're doing. What you're saying is, I'm going to acknowledge that part of the ascension path is me feeling my body more deeply. And as I want to feel my body more deeply, partnership feels like a way to do that. It's a path to enhance my ascension journey. Maybe not everyone's, but for enough people it sure is. You guys are sort of built to partner up. You're tribal beings. We've talked about it before. You're not built to live in little houses by yourself. We know you do it because you have free will and you want to do it. But DNA-wise, you are built to cluster. Survival instinct. So here's another way the survival instinct shows its head. The survival instinct says cluster, 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 and then you go, oh, but if I depend on that guy over there and he lets me down, I might die. And if I depend on that guy over there, I might somehow get screwed up on my spiritual journey. And if I depend on that guy over there and he cheats on me with another woman, I'm going to feel bad about myself. And if I depend on that guy, and then you tie the survival instinct into that, and the word depend becomes, the icky poo yuck word. But you're not depending on him. You're incorporating him into your journey. You're including him. That's what you're doing. That got it. Finally. We don't know how many women needed to hear that, because we had to go layer after layer after layer, because it felt like it was 7 people's questions. So we had to keep saying the same thing. Yep.